Yes, you heard the title correctly. This is a Cuphead challenge video in 2025. This challenge is going to be the Journalist Challenge. It's called this because we all know how good journalists are at Cuphead. In this challenge, we have to not parry, we cannot dash, we cannot shrink in the plane levels. We're also not allowed to use EXs. And the only weapon we can use is the pea shooter. This also includes the pea shooter in the plane levels. So if you want to see more videos from me, click the subscribe button and click the notification bell to get notified every time I make a new video if you want to see more garbage like this. But you've probably been waiting long enough, so let's just get on with the video. So I started off with the root pack because it was one of the easier ones and also because it was one of the only options I could go with. For South Sputter at the beginning, what I did was I just jumped, and since I can't parry, I had to refrain from OCD land and just not get the worm at the end. It was pretty annoying considering we couldn't get the worm at the end, but at the same time, it was worth it because we can't do Rake the Drizzly challenge, we have to start the level over. Ollie Ball wasn't that much different from how it normally is, considering I almost never go through the parries already for the tiers. So I basically just did the whole phase normally. We did end up getting a first hit of the run during the phase, but it wasn't that much harder regardless. For Chauncey Tantani, or however you say his name, we literally just shot up, but it wasn't really that hard because all we did was dodge the carrots and dodge the laser beam that he shoots from his eyes. We almost ended up dying, but we managed to pull through near the end, and we got the first soul contract. Goopy the Grand was the next boss I fought. He wasn't really that much harder, except with the pea shooter, aka one of the worst weapons in the entire game. We basically couldn't hit him consistently, and we had to end up following him, which is never a good strat with any other weapon. After we ended up doing enough damage to get to the second phase, and as annoying as it was, we couldn't get any of the parries from the question mark, and due to this, our grade is always going to be no higher than a C+. We did end up almost getting hit, and later on we actually did end up getting hit, but that was really all that was notable. Goopy was most annoying to attack in the final phase because he cannot be hit while he is attacking himself, but we ended up getting the second soul contract of the run. There is basically nothing notable to say about Hildeberg in this run, considering she is the same, so I'm just gonna skip to the end of the fight. And no, getting the third soul contract doesn't count as notable. Cagney Carnation was one of the more awkward ones to aim at, considering he does this sick idle animation. And due to the fact we cannot stay still, so we kind of have to jump with the idle animation timing. Once he starts shooting out seeds, he doesn't really move that much with the hitbox, so we can actually stand still, but we still cannot get the parry, so we have to deal and kill the flower above. Not long into the final phase, we suffered the run's first death, but it was kind of unfair. I mean, just look at that. And remember, our rules will not let us dash, so I had to take it. We did it on the next attempt, getting the run's fourth soul contract though. Ribby and Croaks' first two phases were not really notable, even though we did have to do an additional cycle of the fan twirling for the second phase. We ended up getting pretty good RNG because we got the snakes in the third phase, which is the best one for this challenge because we don't have to worry about aiming. After getting tigers, which is the worst one due to only being able to aim half the time, the third time we ended up getting snakes again, and we ended up winning to get the fifth and final soul contract of Inqua I-1. Baroness von Bonbon was the first boss I fought in IL-2, and it was not much harder than it usually was, except for the last phase. Upon entering the last phase, it was very difficult because the second she starts throwing her head, we can't dash to dodge it, so we just have to jump around it or walk under it, which is much riskier, but it's our only option, so we just had to deal with it. After getting past the last phase, we got our sixth soul contract. When we got to Bebby the Clown, it was apparent that it was going to be a lot more torturous to avoid parries, considering they are much more common in this fight than they are in most. After getting into the second phase, we got hit, and it was probably one of the most embarrassing hits I've ever taken in my whole 7 years of playing this game. What a world. No, seriously, did you see that? How could someone be that dumb to run into something right in front of them? The third phase was a bit of a problem because we couldn't parry the nose on the roller coaster, so we had to clutch out jumps every single time it went by in the third phase. Fortunately, that wasn't as much as a problem in the fourth phase, considering Beppy for some reason decided to turn into a carousel, which we can just stand on the chairs and swings. Due to Beppy making chairs on the swings after becoming a carousel, we ended up winning and getting the 7th contract. Jimmy the Great wasn't that much of a pain, but like Hildeberg, there isn't really much to say. Due to not getting the mini bombs from the canteen guy, we are not allowed to use those, so I just shot him with normal pea shooter bullets. We did have a close encounter near the middle of the pedal area though, where we almost took a hit. After getting the 8th contract, we move on to Grim Matchstick, and this is the most painful one so far. It was very painful, especially the last phase, considering that Grim shoots out fireballs that'll split in 4 smaller ones in directions, up and down, left and right. And it is very painful because it's just so infuriating. Like, I'm not even gonna talk during this part, not counting the one in the gameplay. Just watch this. I'm so lucky. That is gotta be one of the luckiest things I've ever had. I would have gotten hit. And then stupidity can be saved like as long as you are lucky. We did it. Oh come on, you can whatever. We got hit at the last second, but we did manage to get the 9th soul contract, so it's all good in the end. Wally Warbles wasn't that much of a pain, but what was the last phase in which we have the first major cheese strat in the run. Usually I would just go to the bottom left and parry if a parryable projectile comes my way and try to dodge any normal ones, but since I can't stop the parryable projectile since I can't parry, the only major strat is to go to the opposite side of the screen that Wally is on since he moves back and forth. We got our 10th soul contract, which is also the final one of Inkwell 2. Upon entering Inkwell Isle 3, it was clear that Rumor Honeybottoms was going to be a pain, but surprisingly, it wasn't. Rumor Honeybottom's last phase was by far the most awkward bird to aim in the entire challenge. Like, just look at this. I'm having to crouch in a corner and I'm almost hitting her, it's that hard. We almost died right at the end, but we got the 11th soul contract either way. These next 3 bosses have basically nothing to say about them, so we're just gonna skip past them. Captain Briny Beard gave us our 12th, Sally Stageplay gave us our 13th, and Werner Vermin gave us our 14th. For Dr. Cal's robot, if you're wondering how I'm gonna dodge the laser that comes from the chest area, all you have to do is you have to go in front of it, and then right before it starts shooting the laser, then you go through it, because it does not have a hitbox. We later got the 15th soul contract, and then we went to Cal Maria. Other than getting the 16th soul contract, nothing was notable about her. After defeating the Phantom Express and getting the final soul contract, it was pretty awkward to aim by the way, we can finally move on to the final 2. For King Dice, I already knew I was not going to go for the 3rd one, Mr. Wheezy, considering I tried on other attempts and it was not possible. I tried this chalice before off camera and it was not possible to beat Mr. Wheezy since I could not make it to the other platforms. Due to not being able to lock in the challenge, we had to go with Chip's Bed again, because the first 2, because Tipsy Troop was actually giving me problems in past attempts of this challenge, so I just didn't go for them. Fear Lab, which was number 6, was not really a problem, so we just took him down. We also went through Mangosteen, which is number 8, and he was also not much of a problem. After accidentally restarting after hitting start over like an idiot, we got Pip and Dot, and then we rolled an annoying game with Mr. Chimes, and then we got to King Dice himself. And this is the biggest problem in the whole run, since we cannot parry, we can't bounce on the cards. So I just hid behind his hands every time, but for some reason I kept switching, staying on the same hand, even though it usually... whatever, it's just so stupid. After making the gamest in the land no longer the gamest in the land, we can finally move on to the devil himself. Booting up Satan's fight, it was clear that one attack was going to be a pain. The goat attack. There is no way for us to dash, and since this is in the current version, there's no way to duck under it, so we just have to jump at the very specific time. And after shooting him more bullets and making him cry, we've completed the challenge. I've managed to beat Cuphead in the Journalist Challenge. This was honestly suffering. It took an hour straight, with no breaks at all. Yeah, that's basically all from me. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.